Hi, everyone. This is Carmine Danisco coming to you live from the UIA workshop. This is season 2. We got some great feedback, a whole bunch of awesome guests last season. So we thought, what the heck? Let's bring it back and do it again. It's awesome stuff. And we are ready to go. We're going to talk a little bit today about licensing. We got some really cool guests coming on. One of my co-host is actually going to be on the other side of the seat this time. I want to bring on our first guest. I want to give a little background on her. I'm not going to talk about all the things she's doing because I think the show would be over by the time I mentioned all the things she has going on. It's pretty awesome. And I am so glad that we were able to have her break free and come on the show. Her name is Angela Grayson, and she is the principal member, founder of Precipice IP, which is an award-winning consultancy technology law for, I want to say law firm, but she calls it a law boutique, which is a pretty cool little name. They specialize in patent, trademark, copywriting, and data law. I want to ask her a little bit about that. That's pretty cool. You don't really hear that too much. Prior, which is really cool stuff, prior to founding Precipice, she was the Associate General Counsel in Intellectual Property and Patent Operations Lead. This is really testing my language skills. Oh my God. For Walmart stores, which is really cool. That must have been, probably a boring job being the IP attorney at Walmart for all of Walmart. It's pretty cool stuff. So I want to get into that too. Plus, prior to that, she was a patent examiner for the United States Patent and Trademark Office. She sits on about 10 boards. She's a director, board chair, or advisory council for about 10 different boards on a committee, foundation, things like that. But the great part about it is the information she sent me earlier to talk a little bit about this when I asked, is she says in her free time, she likes to enjoy serving her community, spend time with her husband, and spend time with her cocker spaniels. What free time? So I got to ask her about that. She has so much stuff going on. And then our second guest is obviously Warren, who's the president of the United Inventors Association. We're going to bring him on in a second and see what's going on. Hey, Warren, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Carmine, it's great to see you. It's been a fun summer. I missed you. Thanks for coming back on. And I'm glad to sit on this side of the table. I mean, most people know me as the president of the UIA, or nonprofit, but I actually professionally run open innovation programs and do a lot of licensing. It's probably the thing I have the most expertise. I probably have as much knowledge as anybody on this subject. So as far as a practical consumer goods licensing, but Angela is awesome, and thanks her for coming on. And I know we're going to get started, but I do want to say right off the bat that I met Angela 7 years ago. We are both on the National Pro Bono Patent Commission, which is also a 501c3 nonprofit that's dedicated to providing access for low-income people, either at or very close to the poverty line. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful program. I've been so thrilled to be involved with it, and Jim Patterson was on our board. And then most recently, we're on together doing a lot of work for a new council for the Department of Commerce, and it's called the National Council for the Empowerment of American Innovation, NCEAI. And it's an incredible, impressive list of people. And it's also for allowing more access, or promoting more access to minorities, to women, to people in the military, people who otherwise have been traditionally excluded. I'm reminded of recently by the woman that invented the dishwasher, the electric dishwasher in 1918 was not allowed to be listed on the patent. I think
Unbelievable.
So, it's a really, really cool commission. So let me just say that and then let Angela weigh in, but I'm just told Angela that you're on, so thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I was saying that Carmine's got the best radio voice I've ever heard. Like, wow, I feel like I'm on Larry King or something. This is amazing.
Don't take any phone calls from him.
Yeah. And Angela, awesome background. I mean, a lot of times, we have guests on. You obviously love what you do, and
Totally.
I want to say you're probably great. I've heard some really great things about you. Tell us a little bit about, a lot of people, they shy away from the whole patent process because of all the paperwork and research and all the things. It seems like you really excel at that. Is this something that you always knew you wanted to do?
Well, so I knew I had to do something. So I have a master's in chemistry, and I was in graduate school, and there was this point in time where you either have to get a job, you continue on. And I just really wasn't interested in working. And so I thought, well, do I want to get a PhD? I really love this stuff, but oh my God, what am I going to do with a PhD in quantum chemistry? You know? So I thought to myself, wow, I wonder if I could get into law school. And just on a whim, I did. I got in. I truly didn't have a plan. And after my first year of law school, I realized there was a profession called patent law that really meshed my science and my law background. So when I graduated from law school, I started as a patent examiner, and I've been completely in love with the field ever since. I say that I am definitely one of the lucky few, probably, who lucked up on the perfect career. I absolutely love what I do. I love working with inventors. I love working with complex organizations as well, like the Pfizers and Lillys of the world. And I just love knowledge. I love, you know, just sort of figuring out how it all fits together.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I do and why I do it.
That's
Wasn't
so
there
great.
wasn't there a TV show about someone who got a PhD in chemistry and then went bad or something? I don't know. I'm just
It should be a t-shirt, but you know.
That's so great. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about, not a little bit. We're going to get into licensing and the ups and downs, ins and outs, and all the things. And you and both Warren, you know, have some great, super extensive knowledge about that, and of course, all the different things. Real quick, you sit on so many chairs, advisory councils, and things like that. It seems like you're kind of like me because you love it so much. It's hard to say no because you know you want to help each one.
You do. You do. So one of the things I try to do is create content. So creating content is kind of what, if I wasn't doing IP, that's probably what I would want to do full time. So right now I do it part time just because I want to make sure I get the information out to people. So creating webinars, writing, we write everything on our blog. We don't outsource it to anyone. Collaborating with people to develop content that's really impactful and, dropping some real jewels of knowledge for people. So you're right, you can't be everywhere all the time. But my hope is that the content that we create can kind of give people the information that they need. So if they can't get to me or if I can't get to them, to some extent, they can kind of help themselves.
Awesome. Yeah. And your website, precipiceip.com.
Right.
Awesome. You know, I took a look at it and you're right. You have so much information up there. I would recommend to anyone who's listening, go out to the website. You're giving a lot of knowledge and information away. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. That's right.
That's great.
We love it,
That's
though.
nice. Yeah, that's the difference. I totally agree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick intro for Warren, even though most people have heard it before, but he's got some really cool stuff going on. We'll bring Warren on, and we'll get going on this licensing journey, okay? So our next guest, you guys all know him, President of United Inventors Association. He's a great guy. He's also sits on the National Nonprofit Pro Bono Patent Commission and the USPTO National Council on Expanding American Innovation and a few other things. And I think that's how Warren and Angela may have met, a few years ago. And we'll get into that when they met. He also does work for Lifetime Brands, Merchant Media. He is, I don't want to say a product scout because that's not the right word. He looks for products for all types of industries. He is very, very knowledgeable in finding products, helping through the whole licensing project. It's unbelievable the amount of projects and products that he gets. He really recently, which is really what we want to get into, got a book deal, and I want to bring him on so we could talk a little bit about it. Hey, Warren, what's happening, my friend?
Hey, Carmine, it's great again. And I run what we call open innovation programs. And I think a lot of inventors are familiar with that, but it's pretty much all inclusive. There's a little bit of product scouting in there. There's a lot of licensing. There's a lot of coordinating the culture of the inventor community with big companies, and I'll talk today primarily from my experience at Lifetime Brands, so it's very appropriate. But Lifetime Brands, for instance, is $1 billion company with 2,000 employees and 40,000 products and 11 vice presidents that I work with in the company, to facilitate it. So my job is and I'm an outside contractor, and that's been incredibly beneficial and something that's quite unique and special because it allows me to operate outside the fort. And I'm on the licensing deals. I'm on both sides, representing both sides. So I bring it together. out of the 150 deals I've done with that, I've lost one, I think, and they weren't going to come on anyway. So the point being that I live in both worlds and both camps. And obviously I spent a lot of time launching products before I got the Lifetime brand. So I know a lot about the inventor community, and then before that I was a buyer, as a New York City department store buyer, and then I had my own store. So I've been negotiating products. I mean, when I had my stores in Connecticut, I was the first store in America to launch the Nespresso coffee system, the Donvier ice cream maker, all types of products. So I've been looking, procuring, building, sourcing products for a long, long time. And so it's exciting, but I'm really excited about the book. It was supposed to be out in the fall, but HarperCollins is a very big company, very second biggest publisher in the world. People may have read about it in the New York Times, but all the publishing has been pushed back a few months. So we'll be coming out in March, but I am getting out the word now. It's called Inventor Confidential, The Honest Guide to Profitable Inventing. And we're going to start signing up with all the clubs and tours and all that as we go forward. So thanks for that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. Had it real quick. I know you know a lot of people. HarperCollins, huge book publisher.
Yeah, huge. And it was pretty cool because we put out the book proposals of about 30 companies and we got interest in 4 or 5. And, you know, it's like applying to law school, probably. It's like, you know, and so, you know, you apply to Harvard and you apply, you know, to, you know, other schools and all this. And we just cast a wide net, and I wasn't expecting it. And right at the end, when we were about to sign with someone else, they came out of nowhere, really the Harvard of, you know, book
Very
publishers.
nice.
And they've been unbelievable. They blew everybody else's offer out of the water, their ability to market and get it out. It's a big time. It's not a self-published, not that there's anything wrong with that, and that's wonderful, but this is a very big time effort. A lot of coordination is going to take place. My website's going to be up soon on it, and we're going to start ramping it up, but it's a book that half the book, it's told from the inside. Okay. It's not an inventor book. There's lots of those. It's not a marketer book that, you know, tells you this, you know,
How to license.
Yeah. Like how to dream. It's a factual inside. I mean, I sit in the boardrooms, I sit in all the meetings. I'll give you a perfect example. I remember reading in one book once that a good idea, you know, you can mail in ideas and things, and that you should take like 2 functions and send them in together. And so I get a lot of times people take like a spatula and a spoon and they'll send it in and they'll call it a spoonula, you know, or something. And I guess that's, you know, how they're coached with it. And anyway, I get these all the time. So I'm screening all this up. So just for fun, one day I took it into the president of the gadget division, which is the largest kitchen gadget company in the world. And he said to me, if you ever bring me a combo product like this again, I will throw you out of the building and make sure you're never allowed back in. So, you know, my only point is it's kind of humorous, but there's a disconnect between sometimes what people are being taught and sometimes between what people think. And this is why a lot of people don't get licensing deals. They're really not prepared. So I spent a lot of time in the book talking about what is really necessary to get into Harvard, you know, and yes, it's going to be, you can get into Harvard maybe if you play football or maybe if your daddy gave one of the buildings there, but in general, you know, you got to need 780 boards and, you know, A's, you know, so let's get you prepared for that. And then I spend the back half of the book telling some of the challenges, which Angela knows well today, that inventors are, everything from the PTAB at the USPTO process, which I can explain that in more depth when we have more time, or all the lobbying on Capitol Hill and some of the big tech influences and so forth. So a lot of stuff going on there. And I try to be representative of the inventors in all these battles and what I've learned over the years, walking the halls in Washington, DC, and all the things necessary to sort of give people an awareness. So it's both different on the ground and specifics, but it's also a macro book that really lays out the landscape in many ways that people may not understand.
I
Very
can't
cool.
wait to read it.
Yeah. Well, I will give you an advance copy, Angela.
All right.
I'm going to, so after we did the intros, I'm going to bring you guys together. We'll do a gallery view, so that'll be a little easier the way we're going to be talking. So it might help. And now, so everybody can see us all at the same time. So let's kind of just get into Angela. We're going to start kind of from the beginning for people,
Sure.
that are looking to get a licensing deal. You know, one of the things I get, and you might get, is, you know, when I'm approaching a company for a license deal, how much information should I send to them in like my first communication with them?
Yeah, that's actually a super good question. And the question too should be as well, should you send people unsolicited proposals?
Ah.
So, when I was in house, one of the things I worked on was developing a policy for unsolicited submissions where people would essentially just mail in ideas. And so, companies really don't have a duty of confidentiality if someone were to just send in information. And the danger is that if you send in information where you don't have any pending intellectual property, you really run the risk that the company, number one, again, they have no duty to you. They can take that idea and run with it. Or if they have a related ongoing research and development effort, if it's really a great idea, they can just send it over to those folks. So, I don't discourage people from doing unsolicited submissions. I think it's great. I think it's part of the grit and drive and, part of the sales strategy. But if you are going to submit proposals, if you're going to share your ideas with people, understand that if there is no contract, if there's no confidential disclosure agreement or anything, no non-disclosure agreement with that company, they really don't have a duty to keep your idea confidential. So it's always good if you can, right? Not every not every product may be patentable, but if it's not, you may want to rethink how you approach the company because you're not going to really have any rights by just throwing something over the fence.
Wow.
Warren, you're shaking your head. Sounds
No,
like
I'm nodding in total agreement.
Yeah.
100%, and it's right on. And so I think one of the challenges is then finding the right companies, number one, which can be usually done by web searches and try to get an idea and identify, the companies that are in the category that you want to exploit. We used to be able to do that by walking stores if it's a consumer goods. I'm sure in Angela's words, it's a little bit more technical. And then trying to go around and search their websites to see if they're inventor friendly, if they have open innovation programs. Or sometimes you can just call the main number. And if they have no idea what you're talking about, and they probably don't have an open innovation program. But then I would say that if you get into a situation where you do want to share something, you want to make sure that you have a non-disclosure in place. And I would just say to you, and Angela can follow up on this, that how that non-disclosure agreement is written, because a lot of times companies want to use their own, which I understand. I get thousands and thousands of leads, so I can't do a different non-disclosure every time. But is it fair? Is it a non-disclosure agreement says a lot about the company, is what I'll say.
Oh, wow.
I totally agree. I give a talk every year around shared and jointly developed intellectual property. And a license is really an example of shared intellectual property, and it really does all fall under the bucket of open innovation. So, there are definitely lots of strategies that people can undertake. There's a difference between, the company, the risk that the company may want to take. So, for example, if someone has a product that's already on the market, maybe it's a good idea for that company to just purchase the product versus enter into a non-disclosure agreement when this product is already readily available. But if you're the inventor, again, if you have something that is potentially patentable, it really is always a good idea to approach any third party with pending IP. If you're going to retain that trademark, then think about a trademark filing as well, because anything can be hijacked. Not just, the patentable part of it, but also the brand part of it, and potentially even the copyrightable part of it. So when you have pending intellectual property, and notice I didn't necessarily say have a patent, because sometimes pending IP can be more powerful than a patent. Because if you have pending IP, you have the ability to go back in there and harvest. If you've done a great job with your application, you have the ability to go in and continue to harvest inventions from that, right? Based on what you learn working with other people, having that product in development, and so forth and so on. So pending IP can be very powerful.
Wow.
And you don't, that's a great point. And I've done many licensing deals on pending IP. And you need to, build that into the contract and negotiate the terms for that. But it's definitely, but at the same time, IP is the collateral upon which the deal is based. And think of it this way: if there's no IP and it's just an idea, and you come in, and a company pays you a royalty for it, and somebody else rips them off, they're now paying 3 to 5% more for the cost of goods of that, and that can sometimes, on a $20 product, take it to $30 and take them out of the marketplace. So. Yep. All these things tie together, and they are important. And the other thing is, when you do license to a bigger company and you do have IP, then a lot of these bigger companies have, like Lifetime Brands, have big law offices, and they will help you enforce the patent.
Yes.
So.
I just want to also follow up on something that Warren said. It is a good idea to sort of understand who you're dealing with. If there is a company and they've got an open innovation program, Procter and Gamble kind of comes to mind. I think they've got a lot of transparency. I can't speak to whether the program is good or bad, but I know that when I've looked at developing programs for the companies, I've looked at their program as a great model. And one of the nice things about companies who really get it, so for example, one of the policy decisions I made when I was in-house counsel was, we're gonna send this back to the inventor. So that is an example of a company that is trying to be reputable and above board. And so if you are looking to work with a company, taking note whether or not that company gets open innovation, is an ethical partner, what are some of the things that they have as part of their open innovation policy?
It's so important. I would say there's ethical, unethical, and then just people who shut their doors and don't want to hear, they don't want to know for whatever reason. But Procter and Gamble is one of the iconic companies when it comes to open innovation. And A.G. Lafley, A.G. Laffley, wrote a great book called Game Changer, one of my favorite books that got me interested in this whole world of open innovation. And they set the standard for a lot of it. And today, in the 60s, everything was internal at Procter and Gamble, all these secret formulas. And today, over 50% of their new products come from the outside. And I'm happy to say that the president of Procter and Gamble was in our NCEAI group the other day.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's really nice when you get great companies like the companies, Angela, that we were involved with the Qualcomms and the 3Ms and the Procter and Gambles and these old line companies that have big patent portfolios. They're really kind of friends of inventors, these companies. And so that's what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Wow. And as you guys are talking, you always look at the inventor as being the one who's trying to protect themselves. And as you guys are talking, I was saying, if it's done the right way, the companies themselves also should protect themselves. As you said, Angela, when you're taking that idea in, you may not have done anything wrong. All of a sudden that idea pops up somewhere. And because you're the last person that inventors sent their idea to, you're the bad guy. So companies have to protect themselves too. And just as inventors do, right?
That's right. I mean, at the end of the day, we're really talking about human beings and human behavior. And, I give this talk, as I mentioned, every year in January. And I've probably been doing it, oh my gosh, over 10 years now, maybe more like 12 or 13. Time really flies when you get older. But what's interesting is, even though we focus on a different case every year, they're all the same. And it doesn't matter if you are a big global multinational or if you're a small mom and pop. People do get caught up in kind of the same types of things. One of the things to think about, right? If you're going to collaborate with a company and they've got a similar development pipeline, one of the things as a negotiation tool or something to bring up is, hey, what about a firewall? Because what you don't want is someone at the company who's involved in the same research, developing products for solving the same problem, taking your idea. Because at the end of the day, if they're going to get all the juice out of the lemon, why do they need the lemon anymore? Well, so you want to make sure that there's a firewall, or some time should pass if there's a competing project for people on that deal team with the inventor to go back into that group. So that's just an example, right? Companies are, they have to think about that too, because people just mess up. It's not that people are looking to be the bad guys. People just mess up. And so you need to have that sort of, I think, in writing, if you can, terms like that to keep folks honest.
And that's why I get hired by all these companies as an outside contractor, because if anybody's read the book Outliers, we'll talk about some of our favorite books today by Malcolm Gladwell. They have a chapter on medical malpractice suits, and that 90% of them could have been avoided if the doctor hadn't been a jerk. And that's not the word he uses.
That's right.
Yeah. And so what I do for the companies that I work with is put a human face on it and interact to make sure that we don't have trouble and we talk through things instead of it ending up in suits. But absolutely, you have to look at anybody or anything in this industry. You have to look at their history and try to see, do they have a good program? What have they done before? How many licensing deals have they signed? Have they treated people fairly? Do they have a good reputation? That goes for the companies, that goes for marketers, that goes for coaches, that goes for everything. I mean, really look into their true success, their numbers, you know, and not what they're saying, but what's in reality. And that'll tell you a lot about it. But that's one of the things that I learned, and I've done a lot of work on open innovation. I probably know as much about the subject as anybody on the planet, is that a lot of the bigger companies that have, and by the way, I'm talking about 30, 40, $50 billion companies, you know, that have in-house open innovation teams like Lever Brothers or Procter & Gamble or General Electric. They have like a team of people. But I've talked to a lot of those people, and none of them are ever thrilled with being in the open innovation department, because it's not finance, it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's not the traditional paths to getting promoted into the top of the company. And none of them have ever been outside the company. They were all hired out of college or law school, and they've never worked for anybody else. So they have no idea of the entrepreneurial spirit that goes on. So that's why the outside contractor model works great. First of all, I can live on the outside. I can actually talk to inventors one-on-one and get the feel for it. But we understand the landscape outside, and then we can translate it back. And that goes a long way. So when you're looking at a company, you got to look at, you know, what they say, what they do, what's on their website, but also their people that you're dealing with and how they handle you. How quickly do they get back to you? How, you know, as Angela was saying before, some companies are really kind about. Lifetime Brands is really kind with people. If we don't have success with a product, we give the whole rights back. I many times have torn up the deal and given it back if it doesn't, so they can go out and shop it somewhere else. We've let many people do their own thing quietly with their own technology while we have a certain category that we're going after. There's all different ways of doing this. So you're right, Angela. It's all about everything in this business is about being a human being and being kind and working together.
It is. It is.
Awesome. Warren, real quick question for you, and then I'll have Angela, if possible, jump in. A lot of inventors that I work with, and you might see it all the time, even myself, we're always in a rush. So when I get an idea, I want to license it like tomorrow. You know, how long in reality does it take to get through this agreement and have it looked at and really kick off to where you're first getting that first royalty check?
Well, it depends a bit upon the industry. And it depends upon, obviously, the product and the viability of the product and the strength of the IP and all types of things. But I've worked on products that have advanced from presentation to licensing agreement within 3 or 4 months and been on the market after 8 or 9 months. I would say in the DRTV world, things move a little bit more quickly. So that would be more of an example of that, although there are parameters for that and stages at which you must advance, where the deal kicks in or doesn't kick in. So that's a discussion for another day. At a company like Lifetime Brands, it usually takes us a couple of months to vet it back and forth. You know, there's a lot of information that has to be exchanged and a lot of trust that has to be built. I try to build trust from day one with inventors, to spend extra time with them so that if we move forward, they actually believe what I say. By the way, folks, don't ever believe anything anybody says, you know, in this business, okay, on the surface. You have to go below the surface and have them prove to you that they're credible and give you information. I always say to people on the first call, we're going to talk several times and you're going to have to make a decision whether you believe me or not, because that trust matters. But then it could take, I'm in the middle of a great deal right now. It's taken us several months over the summer to go back and forth. Now we have to price out the cost of goods. That takes, you know, engineering work. It takes working with the factory. It takes redesign. we need to know that information and the cost basis so that we know what royalty we can pay, right? Because if you don't do that properly, the product's is going to fail if you don't get it out at the right price. And then we have to get back and forth. I have a product just today. I sent out what we call a non-binding term sheet, where we get the legal process going now in sync and parallel with the evaluation process and all the engineering and manufacturing process. And then, but it might take us another 2 months before this deal is signed. You come out with a 14-page licensing agreement. It then gets, sent back and forth a few times. It takes a little bit of time. And then from there, in a traditional company like Lifetime Brands, consumer goods, it probably would be introduced if there was a March Housewares show, but it's not. It's been moved back to August. But, we're talking about next spring when it starts and all this. And it could take, easy 10 or 12 months before, the orders start coming in. And then let me just say this, and then I'll shut up because Angela has more to say about this than me. But nothing means anything until the product gets out and starts selling. Okay. Yeah. People, I always see these announcements for licensing deals, and sometimes they're with companies I've never even heard of, even in the house, but you never hear a follow-up because no money was ever made. Okay. There's plenty of license agreements get signed and there's no financial success with it. You shouldn't, as an inventor, feel happy till your product is manufactured out and somebody sold out of it and they reordered, and now the momentum starts. That's when you can get excited. So I'll be quiet.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I think, so first of all, I agree with everything you just said. And I think other complexities can potentially come into play depending on the risk in the industry. So if you're dealing with, a medical device, or if you're dealing with pharmaceutical or something like that in the higher tech space, it may take a little bit longer. Another area for people to think about too is licensing university technology, tech transfer. In that area, it's called tech transfer. And some of those licenses could be done very quickly because, they're already sort of baked, and these are the terms, and some things are negotiable, but many things aren't. From my experience, these deals can go pretty fast. And a couple of deals I've worked on have taken like a year. And that is true back and forth. One of the things that can help, and so again, right, it depends on the industry, the risk profile, and so forth and so on. But it's always nice too to think about term sheets. It's always nice too, before, as an innovator, have some idea of COGS, have some idea, right, before you actually show up to negotiate a deal, have some idea of what all this stuff, how much it costs and how much it could cost, and kind of, right, so that you have an idea, you have an answer, and you can kind of help with that process if possible.
It's so, I feel like I'm singing in the choir here with you, Angela. This is spot on, and it's, really good stuff. So
yeah, Angela. So, and I agree with you. A lot of times inventors believe that they are the only ones working on an idea, or and I sometimes get almost the same invention sent into me, and I say, hey, listen, guys, I just got somewhere in the world somebody is working on the same idea that you have. It might be round and yours is square, or whatever it is, but protecting it and doing it. So real quick, Angela, so when a licensing contract is going through the hoops and it comes onto your desk, what are some of the red flags that you might look for, or what are some of the things you would make sure to protect either the business or the inventor would be in that?
Well, so it's always nice to understand where the technology is positioned in the marketplace. That's something that hopefully you would have figured out, especially if you're drafting a patent application. It's something that you would have figured out because you would have done a landscape search, some sort of landscape analysis. The other thing too is having a real sense of the capabilities of a portfolio. So for example, if we're dealing with a composition, if we're dealing with a something that's like a Flex Seal is like one of my very favorite examples. Flex Seal started out as a composition of matter, right? And they have all of these amazing applications. You can call them line extensions, you can call them applications, various applications. So that composition can be used in all these different types of applications. So paste, spray, strips, right?
Wow.
So thinking about the technology holistically, really that type of work should be done before you ever sit across the table from someone doing a deal, because in some sense you really that goes to, what is this technology really worth? What is the value of this thing? So it may be worth one thing to this person, and by the way, that also goes to making sure that you're not giving away too many rights to a person. So I think that, to answer that question, I think, that diligence should be done well in advance. If you're dealing with patentable subject matter, hopefully it's done at the landscape analysis stage. Hopefully all of those applications, or at least a good foundation, shows up in the patent application, which again is so critical to having pending IP, because you can go in and continue to harvest in terms of continuation applications or continuation in part applications, new applications for the product that potentially uses that core technology. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, I'm just here shaking my head, Warren. I have no idea what the heck she's talking about.
Listen, she's really smart, Carmine. So but the best solutions for a lot of companies are the plug and play. So you're right, Carmine. The companies are working on things all the time. I mean, Lifetime Brands has 75 people in their product development area churning out stuff all day long. But when it fits right, when the product comes in, and I look at 4,000 or 5,000 products a year, the ones that stand out are the ones they may be working on a certain solution. And this just comes in and they go, oh my God, this inventor has a better solution than we do. And so now it's worth our while to pay for that. Yeah. This concept, that you send in, 50 ideas, and one of them doesn't, that's a whole different thing that I'm not sure, what plant that works on, but I could just tell you that, and they may work a little bit, but the ones that come in that are prepared, that prototypes have been built, that the right IP is in place, that fits into, a company objective, and they see the point, they go very, very quickly then. And companies are willing to pay for that. And by the way, if you have good IP and it's great, they'll pay a higher royalty. So you might get 5% instead of like 2%. And there's a big variance between all these things. So there's not just getting a licensing deal. When I see a licensing deal announced, I kind of chuckle, because you don't know the terms, you don't know who is with, you don't know if they're going to be around next year or anything like that. What you want to hear is that someone, signed a high royalty rate, it fit their thing, and then it's a huge success. Like Josh's Bunch of Balloons, top royalty from Zuru, and they sold 30 or 40 million. That's the type of story you want to hear, that you hear after the fact. But clearly, they may very well have been working on, or at least known it. When Tom Risch came to me with the Misto, the olive oil sprayer, thank you very much, shameless plug. We had been talking in my cooking school for years about spraying olive oil, and the concept of that and how difficult it is because of the viscosity. And Tom figured out, the valves and all the things necessary. And when we saw it, we go, holy shit, this is it. Okay. So that's when the deals go very quickly. You're not trying to sell anyone. You're not trying to push anyone. It's just a natural fit.
Wow. Real quick, Warren, and I got this question that came in online. Do people get large sums of money up front when they sign these contracts? Because it seems like everyone thinks they're going to get this huge amount of money when they sign a licensing deal.
Well, personally, I've been involved with advances anywhere from $2,500 to $25,000. Typically, though, a $5,000 advance is not unusual for a typical thing in my arena, because a lot of times in the inventor can use that $5,000 to convert his or her non-provisional patent to a non-provisional patent filing, I should say, from a PPA. So there's a purpose for it. Most of the times I've been involved in, they've been in terms of advances. So if you get, it's just like the book deal I signed, okay? The book industry, it turns out, is just like the inventor industry. I got an advance, and it's paid in stages, and it's towards future royalties. And, I got to sell enough books that, that I eventually work that off, and then I can start making real money on it. So I just say that, the concept of is very similar to other industries, and signing that deal is like other industries. So.
Yeah. It's and again, it's for some reason in this particular industry, things just become misunderstood, and I'm so glad we're having this.
Angela said it before. You should know something about the company you're dealing with and become knowledgeable. And I'll tell you what, I have all these inside stories. You can read them in the book of someone who wanted $100,000 advance and a 10% royalty and everything. And I remember sitting in the room, and I won't use the F word, but the head of the division said, "Are they on LSD?" So I'll tell you what, I will tell you from the beginning that the company, me, Angela, we're evaluating you as much as the product. I promise you that. So if you come in unprepared and you're not right, or you have this crazy scheme of we will get rid of you like a bad date. Okay. It's like dating, and you get, it's wrong, and then you never see each other again. That's what it's like. They'll get rid of you that quickly. So make sure that you're prepared. And also, I will just tell you that people that come in from certain organizations or certain coaching organizations and stuff, I've seen them all before, and I already know the way they're coached. They're not going to have a prototype. They're not going to have this. They're not going to have that. It's all ideas and everything. And I'm like, I already know, what's going on. So maybe there's something that will jump out, and then I get on the phone with that inventor, and not their coach, walk them through and spend hours and days with them trying to formulate and get it right, because I care about inventors and I want to get back to them. But they're not ready for prime time. And even if they have a good idea, if they don't have these other things in place, the conversation will soon fall apart. So to Angela's point, I'll let her go on more. You must be prepared for the process. And if you are, last story I'll tell, and I'll be quiet. We were last year at the hardware show, Carmen, you were probably there. And we did pitch panels with Home Depot. We had Home Depot, right? And we had like 30 pitch panels for 4 hours, Angela. It was great. And a guy comes up to do his demo with a Lowe's bucket.
Oh, no.
He's pitching.
So I go, dude, I'm up on the stage. I go, dude, you might want to go back and get another bucket, Oh, no. I go, this is Home Depot you're pitching to. He goes, well, I have a Lowe's bucket. And I said, okay. I said, you mute you to everybody. There's 100 people watching. I said, to you guys out there, when you come, be prepared, know who you're pitching to, and gear your presentation. I can't tell you how many times at TTI, people actually do up their drills and their presentation in the Ryobi, green colors or the rigid orange colors. And it just fits so well, because it shows you that they have done their homework, they've planned, and they're ready to make that presentation. And then they get evaluated really well, instead of thrown out of the building, never allowed to come back in again.
Oh God, I was there. Not only did the gentleman have the wrong bucket, but he actually turned the Lowe's logo towards the Home Depot executives.
Oh, no.
The more I warned him, the more defined he got, which is a wonderful trait, maybe if you're playing football. But in the inventor world, you want to learn, okay? And it's just, when no one's asking you to be a wuss and cave or anything on what you believe in. We just want to have a rational conversation with you.
Yeah, no doubt. So Angela, I know you like working with technology type products and technology transfer. Is there, if you're working on those types of products, and there are a lot of inventors out there that are working on different technologies, is there advantages to licensing or trying to sell the idea? Is it harder to get all the IP for that, so it's more expensive? Is it easy to license? What's the best route with somebody who's doing technology?
Well, it depends on the type of technology. Software technology is more scalable probably than, technology where you need a lab and all these types of specialized facilities to do the work. One of the things I encourage people to think about is the SBIR and the STTR sort of pathway. The government will actually provide a contract or grant, depending on the agency, depending on how the agency terms the award. And the government essentially is paying the inventor to do research and primarily develop products that are far, not something that's obvious, not something that is everyday. They really are paying people to stretch. And so in that situation, when you get the money, you can retain the ownership of your patents if there are any, and there should be, but the government will get a license. right? The government will have a royalty-free paid-up license to use the technology. So depending on the type of technology, there are specialized programs out there that can help offset the cost of research and development. The quid pro quo is that the government, for example, will be allowed to have a license to make the product.
Wow. Yeah, SBIR is an amazing program, right, Angela?
It is. It's like magic. It literally is like, I mean, and the government, just, where I live in Northwest Arkansas, there are companies who are working on their 5th SBIR in excess of over $1 million for each award. Like, this is serious money.
Yeah, they give out, they award, I should say, $2 billion a year. Of course, it helps if it's a military, piece of hardware.
It does, but I think there are like 7 government agencies that are part of this SBIR program. Yeah. So DOD definitely probably has the biggest purse, but agencies like NASA, USDA, NIH, it's just a wide variety of agencies that are looking to small businesses, to inventors, to essentially bridge the gap for them and help solve their problem. That's exactly that's exactly the point of the program.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's great that you brought it up because it is such many people don't understand it, but usually they do have conferences and sometimes state conferences. So people want to learn more. Of course, everything's a little up in the air with COVID, but I'm a big believer, by the way, in going to conferences, going to trade shows, getting in and really, being educated. I learned more from that SBIR conference by spending 2 days at it than I would have reading about in a book.
Yep.
Wow. So Angela, and I love the licensing model for most people. It really does work if it's done well. But I also love selling a product. Like I love making a product and selling it. Like I have, multiple products that I sell, and I love to see where they go. And is it possible, or can you do some type of hybrid where you license your products, but you still can have the ability to sell it on your own?
Anything's negotiable, right, Warren? Anything's negotiable. Yes, it is. So, the idea is that you're probably potentially will make more if you have the infrastructure to make the product, but you will be responsible for more. You'll potentially have to have more upfront costs. So, if you have the ability to make the product, if you have the supply chain, if you have those connections and resources and capital, because it takes money to pay your manufacturer to actually, make the product, takes money to ship the product, it takes money to do all those things. Absolutely. You can have licenses where the scope is limited. So the licensee maybe is in working in a particular application or in a geography, and you can retain the other rights for yourself. So, it certainly can be done. The caveat is that you'll need capital, or you'll need, to figure out investors to actually make it happen, because manufacturing can be very expensive.
So true. And by the way, any agreement is what 2 people can agree to.
Right.
So, and it's very well said. And we have a number of agreements at Lifetime Brands where we actually allow the inventor to buy from our factory. So we go out, tool and bring the cost down dramatically from whatever they thought was possible because of our clout. And then we allow them to buy directly out the back door at their cost. We don't get involved in that at all. We don't want to be part of that. And if they want to sell it, as Angela was saying, it might be a different silo. Like for us, we might have the rights for consumer housewares, those spatulas in your kitchen, but maybe they want to sell it directly to Restaurant Supply or something like that. Or maybe we just have the rights in North America. They want to sell it in Europe. So there's a lot of ways to break these down, but that's if a lot of companies will ask for worldwide rights in all categories to begin with. And if that's what they stick to and they won't come off of it, then that tells you one thing. But as you get into it, if you have a specific plan in your own mind to do various things, then and they're open to that and they only care about what they care about, that's a pretty good sign that they're an inventor-friendly company.
Yeah, wow. And it goes back to what we said earlier. It pays to do your homework.
Yes, it does.
So
and by the way,
want to pitch to the right person.
Yeah, homework might involve calling someone like Angela, calling someone like me. I mean, I'm an open innovation and asking me what I think, and trying to get the lay of the land. Sometimes people call me, I have no idea what the royalty range is. Could you let me know? And I'm happy to fill them in. Much better to do that and to be honest and upfront than to, start just stammering or come, from what you heard at the local bar.
Yeah. The great part about it with Warren is, Warren, you get back to almost every person that send you a product or ask you a question. I sent somebody to Warren. They said he'll never get back to me, and they called me. They were so ecstatic that Warren got back to them. I said, yeah, he gets back to everyone.
I try. I'll tell you why I do it, because I like people, for starters, and all people. But more importantly, I actually learn, from people. Now, a lot of it's rote, and I'll have a standard 8 or 10 answers that I give, and I try to be helpful. And one of the reasons is because I've had 9 businesses in my life, and one of them almost put me under. So you can read about that one in the book. So I know how it feels to be on the other side, trust me. But I want to give helpful information, and I want to treat people the way they would treat me. But at the same time, we want them to get more educated, because maybe the next idea they have, they'll be more and to come back. And it also keeps me on my game. It keeps me razor sharp, because I don't miss anything, Now, I don't always get back the same day or two, and maybe I'm in Europe, and so I won't get back for a couple of days, but I will get back to you. I promise you.
That's cool. All right. Well, cool. We have one more question, and then we're going to start doing some closing up. It just came in. Should someone attend a trade show to find licensing opportunities if they just have a provisional patent?
Angela, you want to go, or you want me to go?
My view is absolutely.
Yeah.
That is the point of the provisional patent. It's better, again, if you take nothing away from what I say today, if there's an opportunity for you to have pending intellectual property before you approach someone, that would be the preferred way to do it.
And what I would not share, I would not hand over your prototype. I would not hand over your CAD drawings. I would not hand over anything. A lot of times people want me to sign an NDA just blindly, and I say, you got to give me a general idea of what's up. There's not much to be gathered if someone walks by your booth and you have a new garlic press and they see it from afar, or you generally describe it. They don't understand the mechanics, the important mechanics inside of it. So there are a lot of different ways to go about that, but I am a huge, can I say that any bigger than the UIA letters behind us, believer in trade shows. I heard 2 people talking about trade shows the other day, and it was like 2 9-year-olds talking about sex. Neither one of them had a clue what they were talking about. It was like, I couldn't believe it. But they're kind of joking whether it's worth changing. Trust me, at the hardware show, I've seen more people pick up licensing deals and go forward in really concrete things. And I've done more licensing deals out of that than any platform I can name. Now, do you always get a deal? No. But you're going to learn a tremendous amount by going to the show. Now, you have to decide how you're going to spend your money. Now, it might cost you $3,000 or $4,000 to go to the show and participate in it, and you have to weigh that against, the cost of filing for a patent. And I suppose if somebody wanted to charge you the same amount for coaching, you got to decide whether. So there's battle over how people spend their money. So someone who's in the coaching business is going to tell you spend their money with them, and maybe your patent attorney is going to tell you to spend on a patent. But I'm going to tell you that you should look into trade shows, because I think it's incredibly important. And if you can't afford to go and participate in a booth, at least hoof out there and walk the show and become familiar with it, because there's always tremendous education, tremendous events going on, and other things that will change your life in so many ways. So check it out. And we are going to have a show, Carmine, and not next week. We're doing Make 48 next week, but the week after, we're going to have a show specifically on trade shows. And then we're going to go into the virtual hardware show. We're going to allow you guys to pitch. So there's going to be a lot of trade show stuff coming up.
Yeah.
Can I just also add, not every inventor will either have the money or the resources, right, to file a good provisional patent application. There's always what I call the cover sheet provisional, where whatever disclosure you have, whether it's a spec sheet or PowerPoint slides, you can slap a provisional cover sheet on that and file it. Trust me, it is not the preferred way to do it, because you're going to leave out a lot of stuff, most likely. And when you go to convert that, it may not be entirely enabled to go back to that filing date. So that's number one. So talking through these issues with your patent attorney, preferred is having pending IP, but there are also some step down options. The other thing too is, if you, for whatever reason, can't get a provisional patent application filed before you start broadly and publicly disclosing it, selling it, or offering it for sale. If you make that public disclosure, you need to work with your patent attorney if you think you may want to file, because the clock starts ticking and you only will have 12 months to get to the patent office to preserve your ability. Otherwise, it's a potential statutory bar. And the third thing I'll mention is that when it comes to an international plan, your rights to get patents outside the United States may be compromised if you disclose your invention before a provisional is filed. So you really do need to think about kind of all the ways that the pieces fit together before you launch or disclose or offer for sale. All of those things are buzzwords that have implications in patent law.
Yeah.
God, Carmine, she's really smart. Gosh.
What's crazy, and Angela, you're hitting it right at, because you talk so calmly and knowledgeably about it. But us inventors, we just go forward without thinking. And I'm so glad that you're saying, and Warren, you have to really plan. You have to step back. You have to follow the right sequence, because it can come back to bite you.
Yeah.
Well, it's great information, and it's really credible. And like I say, in this industry, when you talk, you're not trying to sell anything. We're here. We're not trying to sell anything. I don't want anybody. I don't take any money from inventors. I don't. I'm at an age in life where it doesn't matter anyway. So it's all about giving back, because for me, I've had a couple of huge product hits and profitable innovation programs I've run, and I've been blessed, even though it hasn't all been clear sailing. So we really want to give back, and Angela has a tremendous amount of knowledge, and there's a very wonderful thing in life of giving back to people. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah, no doubt. Angela, real quick, I know that you worked at Walmart with the IP team, or whatever you want to call it. I've pitched some products there. Is it as crazy in the back with the intellectual property as it is when you're pitching products? That place is crazy when I walk in there.
I'm under, they'll kill me if I say for sure. I'll just say it's very busy.
Yeah.
It's very busy. There is a lot of actually very cool energy at Walmart. And I will say this, Walmart has and I am not a paid spokesman for Walmart, just so you know, but they have a lot of energy for small inventors. They really do. Their open call, I think, is virtual. It's either going on now or will go on soon. So there is definitely an opportunity to get in front of people. In this town, a lot of people do use brokers. That might even be a webinar for another day. But a number of people use brokers to get their products, in front of companies like Walmart and PetSmart. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty high energy. I'll answer that question with that answer.
Walmart's always been to me, and I came up to the retail buying ranks, so I understand it. They're a very professional company. They're very reasonable in what they ask for, fair, especially given the volume. I mean, the one hard thing is shipping. They got a shipping manual bigger than the phone book, so you might want to use a fulfillment center.
Yeah.
And
there are a lot of rules that go with being a vendor for one. Yeah. And it goes back to your point earlier, are you ready for the prime time? Because not every small business is going to be ready for Walmart's not playing games. I mean, they are, and we can talk about even selling a product on a platform where you haven't done your diligence about whether that product infringes someone else's patents. So right now we've been talking about protecting your patents, but what if your product actually infringes someone else's patents? Many companies have requirements that you have to indemnify them if they get embroiled in patent litigation around your product. I mean, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
You gotta be ready for prime time.
We got through a whole hour. We never said the word indemnification.
I know.
But I was, I have a chapter in the book all about going to market directly, because I have experience in doing that as well. And it brings the whole thing together. But I will just add at the end here too, my book is already written, by the way, folks. It's already titled. It's already on Amazon. I can't change it now. It just isn't out there. I want to get it out to you soon, but all these subjects that we're talking about are all in there. But this has been great with Angela's just it's really cool to talk to someone so knowledgeable and who gets it. So it's very cool.
No, it's awesome. Angela, real quick, any real cool stuff you're working on you could tell us about, or is
Oh my gosh, I have so much cool stuff. The fun thing about my job is I get to work on chemicals, like compositions, and I also have some interesting software stuff that I'm working on. I work with people also in the consumer product space. So I get to use really all of my
Wow.
brain synapses are firing, and it makes it so much fun. You know, you asked me a little bit about privacy. Also important, if you're going to take consumer information, you've got to make sure that you keep it private and confidential, and you don't misuse it. So I get to help companies think about their strategy when it comes to keeping, consumer data confidential. So much good stuff.
Wow, awesome, so cool. All right, I would love to keep this going on, but we already
Right,
just hit our minute, and everyone's loving this. People are thanking everyone for the workshop today. Precipiceip.com.
That's right.
I keep testing myself to say that.
You're doing great.
Go on out there and contact Angela if you have some questions. Obviously, contact Warren if you have some questions. Titleinovation.com, but you can find Warren on all social medias everywhere around.
I'm not the dance instructor from Atlanta, who my wife should have married.
Much to everyone's disappointment.
Yeah, he's a ballroom dancer.
I would love to see that
she would
myself.
love that. I think she would loved it. But hey, Carmine, next week too, you're probably going to do it anyway. Make 48 behind the TV show. It's airing right now.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the mentors, and it's a pretty cool show. And I think we're up to episode 3. But Make 48, both Tom Gray and then the host Jimmy, the host of the show, is the YouTube star, is going to be on next week's show with us.
Yeah. So Tom Gray next week, Make 48, and the great maker, Mr. Jimmy DiResta.
Right, Jimmy DiResta
will be
awesome
on next
dude.
week. Awesome guy. Tom, man, he's so cool. Every time I run into Tom, he's just really putting it out there, making such great stuff. So yes,
he has a fake Australian accent. He's from New Jersey.
You can say that. So,
Doesn't everyone?
all right, we on the show. All right, we're gonna close up. Angela, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank
we got
you.
some great feedback from people. They're loving the show. We're probably gonna ask you to come back on. We're gonna get
I'd
some
love
questions
to.
for you. Warren, as usual, I will catch you next time. Sitting next to me, we will be putting them in the hot seat for next week, my friend.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, everyone. Please, if you can, go on out, subscribe to this show. Also, go on out to the UIAusa.org. Sign up for United Inventors Association. It is free. There's no reason not to belong. You can certainly do that. And we will catch you next week on the UIA Workshop Series. You all take